Alrighty. Now, before I get into this week's topic, I'd just like to point out that apparently I was a little bit ahead of the curve last week for once. My From the Gut last Thursday was about Scotland taking over Boston during the World Cup. At the time, it was mostly soccer fans talking about it. Now it's absolutely everywhere. Major news outlets, famous podcasters, celebrities, everyone has been talking about it. The Tartan Army has basically become America's favorite fan base basically overnight. So I'd like to officially congratulate myself on being culturally relevant for approximately 48 hours. But that has nothing to do with what I want to talk about today. Today, I want to talk about my wife reading smut. Yep, I did just say that. Now, before Kelly kills me, let me explain. If you've met my wife, this is about the last thing you would expect. She homeschooled her kids. She led ministries at our church when we lived in Virginia. She's been in a Bible study pretty much our entire marriage. This is a woman who once refused to have her picture taken while holding an alcoholic beverage drink just in any social setting because she worked at the church and she didn't want someone to get the wrong impression. But one of my favorite stories is the first time she ever cursed in front of her kids. They were McKenna would probably correct me. I don't know. They were about 8 or 10 years old. And the word was damn it. That's it. That's the scandal. So imagine my surprise a couple years ago when I discovered, not that she was trying to hide it, when I discovered that she was listening to fantasy romance audiobooks. And when I jokingly called them smut, she literally didn't even know. Is that my phone? Let me turn my She literally didn't even know what the term smut meant. She had never heard it before, which somehow made it even funnier. Now, if you didn't know, these types of books have a spice rating, just like movies with PG, PG-13, R-rated, and then NC-17 past that. For these books, the spice rating is usually done using a spice meter from 1 to 5. The more spice, the more smutty. She was telling me the other day about her recent read, and she told me that she even had to skip certain sections. And again, she's just listening to the book. She's not watching or any of that stuff, but she would even skip some sections, well, allegedly. I asked her what the spice rating was, and she didn't know, allegedly. So I looked it up, and it was 5 spices. So as spicy as you can get. And if you've ever seen the Friends episode where Joey catches Rachel reading romance novels, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Rachel, she tries to defend her books by saying it's just a healthy expression of female sexuality. Joey just laughs as she walks away and says, "You got porn." I should have maybe beeped myself because that word might flag the algorithm, but who cares? But every time I think about Kelly's audiobooks,
that would really kill our viewership.
Every time I think about her audiobooks, that scene from Friends is what I think about. But before I get myself into even more trouble, her preference is 1 to 2 on the spice level. But that is not really the point. The point is this: people are way more complicated than the labels we give them. Because if I asked you to describe Kelly, fantasy romance novels probably wouldn't make the top 100 things you'd say. But here we are. And honestly, I think we do this all the time. We put people into neat little boxes: Christian, conservative, liberal, Catholic, atheist, business owner, introvert, extrovert. And then we're surprised when people don't fit perfectly inside the category we've assigned them. Because human beings are complicated. We have interests that don't seem to go together. We have contradictions, and that's usually what makes people even more interesting. Which brings me to social media. because I think a lot of loan officers, real estate agents accidentally do this to themselves. Every post is about mortgage rates. Every post is about housing. Every post is mortgage advice, or every post is business related to some degree. Now, don't get me wrong, people need to know what you do. Or if you want social media to work in your favor, they need to trust your expertise. That's important. In fact, it's one of the reasons we do what we do at Little Nessy. We create mortgage content, those educational pieces, the market updates, the compliance sensitive content, the stuff that reminds people what you do as a loan officer. But here's what I've noticed over the years: the content that often creates the strongest connection isn't always the mortgage content, or rarely is the mortgage content. It's the human content, the family story, the vacation picture, the hobby, the dog, the kids, the embarrassing story about your spouse's audiobook collection. The things that remind people there's an actual person behind the profession. Because when people think about the relationships they value most, they don't think about job titles. They think about personalities, the little quirks that make someone unique. And yet, when many professionals get online, they strip all of that away. They become a business card, a logo, a headshot, a title. And then they wonder why no one engages. Because people connect with people, not job descriptions. But don't get me wrong, expertise matters. It's, like I said, one of the reasons Little Nessy exists, to take that load off your plate. Most loan officers don't have the time to research market updates and then turn it around and create educational content. Maybe it's a fear of compliance, or maybe it's that they just don't want to take the time to write the captions or shoot videos. That's our job. We help you tell the mortgage story for you. But here's what we can't do. We can't be you. We can't create the story about your daughter winning a soccer tournament. We can't tell the story about the fishing trip with your son, or the family vacation, or how funny you think it is that your wife listens to fantasy romance novels. Only you can do that. And when you combine both, the professional content and the personal content, something powerful happens. People stop seeing you as a mortgage company or a loan officer and start seeing you as a person they know and trust. And honestly, I think that's why this whole thing made me laugh so much. Not because Kelly reads fantasy romance novels, but because after almost 30 years together, she still managed to surprise me. And maybe that's a lesson we need to learn when it comes to social media. And let this be your challenge this week. If somebody only knew you through social media, what version of you would they know? Would it be just the loan officer or the real estate agent? Or maybe the flip side, do they only know the fun stuff you do on nights and weekends? Because people do need to know what you do for a living, but they also connect with who you are. And maybe that's the version of you that's been missing all along.